First off, guys, I want to say congratulations. This movie is quite an achievement. It's impactful, and I think it's very special. And part of that has to do with the themes, which I want to ask about in a second. But the other part of it is the very grounded and realistic characters. And for Nick and Judy, why did you guys choose a bunny rabbit and a fox?
I know.
Well, they're just so damn cute.
Well, that was a big
so
reason. They are appealing. People like rabbits and people like foxes. Well, because if the story was going to be about a little animal that wanted to be a big cop, then we thought, well, it's a little tiny fluffy rabbit that everyone underestimates is a great character. That's a character that's got a lot in her way, and it's a character that has to find a way to surmount all of these different obstacles that are going to be thrown in her path. And we thought, well, in doing research, we found out that the natural enemy of the rabbit is the fox. So no matter where you go in the world, rabbits and foxes, they just don't get along. And we thought that's a great ingredient for a good buddy movie. And and they're just darn cute, like Rich said.
Were other animals considered for any of the lead roles?
At one point, we did talk about, well, if it's a rabbit, should it be something bigger than a fox? Should it be like a tiger or a lion? Yeah. But then it started to feel like, well, is it sort of like a father-daughter relationship? Yeah. And there was something about keeping them kind of the same size. Like, even though Nick is a predator, he's still a small predator, and he's still an underdog in the world. Like, there are these big bears and lions and tigers that are much, much bigger than him. So even though
puts them on the same level,
yeah,
I think.
They relate much more.
And you guys spent a year and a half researching animals and their habitat. What was the most difficult part from what you guys learned to adapt into this film?
We were really committed to scale in the movie. A lot of times in other animated films, they'll fudge the scale. They'll make a mouse like 2 feet tall and make an elephant like 10 feet tall. So everything gets a little closer, and you kind of accept it in cartoons.
And they did it with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, Mickey is supposed to be about this big, right?
I know. Well, that he's as big as a duck.
That mouse is as big as a duck.
Okay, well, I
accept it.
That's fine. It's quite a trick.
No, but in Zootopia, mice are mouse-sized and giraffes are giraffes. In fact, it takes 95 Zootopian mice stacked on top of each other to equal 1 Zootopia giraffe. And we stuck to that rule, and we said no matter what it does to the buildings or the trains or the taxis or the restaurants or whatever, we're going to stick to it. And it made the world very difficult to put together, but when you watch the movie, I think you really go, well, this would really work if animals evolved and figured out a city. This is what it would be like.
And it adds to the entertainment.
Yeah, totally.
I read that there are 64 different species of animals in this film. Were there any species or environments that you didn't get to include in this one, but you'd love to do like in a sequel?
Well, it seemed that people kept wanting, people on our writing staff, on our story staff, wanted to include a goat over and over.
Of all things.
Of all things, a goat. Like that, there were like jokes about screaming goats and fainting goats and an old goat that was Judy's partner as a meter maid for a while, and it just seemed like the goat was not going to make it in this movie. It was the goat always got cut.
Yeah, she didn't. She didn't make it.
I mean, and there was a point where we thought, the goat is finally in. This is not going to go anywhere. This is no way the goat's going to leave. And then finally, it was like, okay, the goat's.
Yeah,
it's
we actually built the goat, and then we
there was a goat character.
And we cut her out. Yeah, she's gone.
Obviously, this film tackles some very important and timely, I would say, themes. Was the plan for Zootopia to tackle that with the social dynamics of the animal kingdom from the very beginning, or did it just fit into what you guys were building?
It evolved. In doing research into the animal world, with mammals, we figured out that there's a very interesting fact, which is 90% of mammals are prey animals and 10% are predators. And we thought, even if these animals have evolved over a period of 1,000 years and have put that eating thing behind them long ago, do you think they would have completely gotten rid of that mistrust of each other? And that was a very interesting way to build the story for us. So these two groups that don't get along, that don't see eye to eye, just like our own world. And I think that was a great way for especially for a buddy movie to start. A predator animal, prey animal, very different, but learning about each other and coming to gain a different appreciation for their own viewpoint through their character growth. It was terrific. And
that was part of the charge of creating a new kind of unique talking animal world, because we didn't want to just say, well, all these animals, even the ones that used to eat one another, live together in harmony, and we never addressed that. It seemed like that was a juicy part, that was the really interesting kind of dynamic that we wanted to know. Well, how did they get there? How did that happen? And what would happen if that social contract kind of broke down between them? Like, what would happen to their world if they went back to how they used to be?